The notification pops up, battery low, 10% remaining. The phone is dying. You start to panic about the meeting you're walking to. 5 minutes later, you check again, still 10%. You keep walking. The battery drops to 5%. The screen turns red. You feel the urgency rise. Another 10 minutes pass. You check again. Now it's at 1%. You're sure it will die in seconds. You brace for it. You start dimming the screen. You stop opening apps. And then somehow that 1% lasts and lasts. 20 minutes later, you're sitting in the meeting and the phone is still on, still showing 1%. So here's the question worth asking. How does a battery that's supposedly almost empty keep working for half an hour? Why does that single percent feel like it has more endurance than the previous 5 combined? And how is it that your phone, a piece of technology supposedly precise enough to land humans on the moon, can be so wildly wrong about how much battery it has left? Here's the first thing most people get wrong. They think the percentage on the screen is a direct measurement, like a fuel gauge in a car reading the actual liquid level in a tank. That feels intuitive. It just happens to be wrong. Your phone has no way to directly measure how much energy is left inside its battery. None. Not even close. What the percentage actually is an estimate calculated dozens of times per second by an algorithm that's working with incomplete information. The reason this matters is the physics of a lithium-ion battery. Inside the cell, energy isn't stored as a measurable volume of fluid. It's stored as a chemical state. Lithium ions sit between 2 electrode layers, and the only thing your phone can really measure from the outside is the voltage, the electrical pressure the battery is producing at any given moment. The phone takes that voltage reading, runs it through a lookup table, factors in the current being drawn, factors in the temperature, factors in the historical pattern of your usage, and produces a number. That number is the percentage you see. It's an educated guess, an informed one, but still a guess. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. A lithium-ion battery doesn't discharge in a straight line. Its voltage doesn't smoothly drop from full to empty in a clean ramp. The discharge curve is a flat plateau for most of the cycle, then a steep cliff at the end. From 100% down to about 20%, the voltage of a typical phone battery hovers somewhere around 3.7 volts. It moves very little. The chemistry is in its sweet spot. Most of your usage happens in this flat zone. Then, below roughly 20%, the voltage starts dropping faster. Below 10%, it falls off a cliff. And below 5%, the voltage can swing wildly within a fraction of a volt for any given energy state. This is the source of all your confusion. In the flat plateau, the algorithm sees almost no voltage change for hours of usage, and the phone has to make educated guesses about where exactly on the curve you are. In the cliff at the end, tiny voltage changes correspond to dramatic shifts in remaining energy. The algorithm becomes increasingly uncertain at exactly the moment you need accuracy most. Quick favor before we keep going. If you've ever wondered about the engineering hiding inside the little things on your screen, hit that subscribe button. We dig into the science behind the systems quietly doing the work you've never noticed. Now back to the percent. To handle this uncertainty, the engineers who design your phone deliberately make the algorithm conservative at the bottom. When the screen says 1%, the actual remaining energy might be anywhere from a real 1% to a real 4 or 5%. The phone is not lying, it's hedging. The system would rather show you a panicky low number that's slightly pessimistic than overpromise and shut down without warning, so that 1% on your screen frequently has more energy behind it than the algorithm is willing to admit. There's also a second effect at work, and it's even more important. The moment your phone hits 20%, something else kicks in. On iPhones, iOS prompts you to enable low power mode. On Android phones, Battery Saver activates automatically below 15%, with another prompt at 5%. These modes aren't just dimming the screen, they're reshaping the entire energy consumption profile of the device. Background app refresh is paused. Mail fetch stops. Visual effects and animations are reduced. The ProMotion 120 Hz display drops to 60 Hz. The CPU is throttled. 5G is disabled in some scenarios. iCloud Photos sync pauses. Auto lock shortens to 30 seconds so the screen doesn't stay on as long. Each of these tweaks shaves a small amount off the rate of battery drain. Stacked together, they can cut total power consumption by something like 30 to 40%. Your phone in low power mode is barely the same device it was at 80%. The percentage number is moving slower because the entire system is consuming less. So when your phone says 1% and you watch it survive 20 minutes, what's actually happening is the collision of three forces. The voltage curve has flattened out near the very end of the discharge cycle in a region where the algorithm is intentionally pessimistic. The phone is running in maximum conservation mode, sipping power at a fraction of its normal rate. And your usage has probably gotten less intensive too, because you're aware the battery is dying and you've stopped opening Instagram every 30 seconds. Now here's the surprise that almost nobody outside the battery industry talks about. The percentage you see isn't even stable from one moment to the next. The same phone with the same battery can show different percentages depending on what it's doing. Open a graphics-heavy game, and the screen percentage might suddenly drop 2 or 3 points, not because your battery actually lost that much energy, but because the higher current draw lowered the voltage, and the algorithm reinterpreted what that voltage meant. Put the phone down and let it rest, and the percentage might recover slightly because the voltage recovered as the chemistry settled. Phone batteries genuinely do appear to gain a percent or two if you let them sit. That's not your imagination. That's the chemistry briefly recuperating from being drained. You've been encountering this same uncertainty in other places without realizing it. Your laptop battery, same chemistry, same algorithm, same hedge pessimistic at the bottom strategy. Your electric car. The range estimate that drops faster on the highway than in the city is the same kind of dynamic estimation scaled up. Your wireless earbuds. The little case shows you a percentage that's even more approximate than your phone's because the cells are smaller and the algorithm has less to work with. Your e-bike. Your robot vacuum, the Tesla in your driveway, all running variations of the same voltage plus current plus context plus lookup table estimation that's trying to translate chemistry into a number you can act on. Now for the honest trade-off. The pessimistic at the bottom strategy that gives you those bonus minutes isn't free. Phone batteries also have a small absolute reserve, often around 2 to 5% of actual capacity, kept below the visible 0% mark. When your phone shuts down at 0, the cell still has real energy. The reserve exists because draining a lithium-ion battery all the way to its true chemical floor permanently damages it. The phone would rather lie about being empty than let you destroy the cell. So the 0% shutdown is mechanically a safety floor. The 1% that lasts is computationally a safety ceiling at the bottom. Both are deliberate. Both extend the life of the battery. The other honest concern is that the algorithm gets worse as your battery ages. After 300 to 500 charge cycles, the battery's true capacity has dropped by 10 to 20%. The lookup table the phone is using was calibrated for a fresh cell. The estimates drift. Sometimes a phone with a degraded battery will jump from 30% straight to a sudden shutdown because the algorithm hasn't kept up with the chemistry. That's not random. That's the algorithm's drift catching up with reality at the worst possible moment. So here's where you land. That last 1% you've been watching survive against all odds isn't a miracle. It isn't a hidden battery reserve. It isn't bad design. It's the visible edge of a system that has been quietly hedging its predictions about your battery all day. The flat plateau of the lithium-ion discharge curve hides most of the truth from the algorithm. The conservative estimate at the bottom inflates the perceived bonus. The aggressive power-saving mode stretches the actual energy, and the phone, doing the best it can with the voltage and the current and the lookup table, would always rather under-promise and over-deliver than panic you into thinking you've got more time than you do. If you think your phone is weirder than it looks, wait until we get into why your phone shows 100% for half an hour before it ever actually moves from the charger. Because the reason isn't laziness in the algorithm. It's the same hedging strategy running in reverse at the other end of the curve. And once you understand both ends, you'll never trust a battery percentage the same way again.